I think intimacy is involved no matter the medium. It's just different types of intimacy, right? And like there's
Mm.
different sizes of truth, right? The intimacy I think that is involved in television and film is so often between you and the camera, right? That intimacy is between you and the camera because you really have to allow the camera to come in close. Everything is communicated, and really so you have to let the camera get in close and trust that everything will come through and be communicated if you're listening and responding. And so the size of your truth changes, right? Like it doesn't, I think people are like, oh, they're totally different mediums. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're both, both about finding truthful moments and connections, listening and responding and telling stories. But the size of the story you're telling is often different.
That was the voice of television star Meredith Garretson. She is my guest on this episode of the Page and Stage podcast, and as always, I'm your host, Jason Cannon. Before diving into my conversation with Meredith, I want to give a big shout out to Alitu. Alitu is the all-in-one online podcasting app that I use to put this show together. Doing the show is one of the wildest and best decisions I ever made, but it literally would not exist without Alitu. And if you're thinking about maybe starting up a podcast of your own, I cannot recommend Alitu highly enough. It does it all. You just upload your audio, and boom, it converts the files, levels the volumes, reduces the background noise, does all the other magical mixing stuff, and even has automatic editing filters, a free music library, hosting. There are even more bells and whistles, but I want to get on with the episode. So check out the show notes and use the link there to learn more about Alitu and sign up. Now, let me tell you more about my guest, Meredith Garretson. This is such a treat. Meredith currently stars as Kate Hawthorne on the hit TV show Resident Alien. She has also appeared in The Offer on Paramount+, Stargirl, Chicago Med, New Amsterdam, Elementary, among many, many others. Meredith will next appear opposite Paul Rudd in the upcoming film Friendship, and she is currently starring in the New York premiere of Blood of the Lamb, a powerful new play by Arlene Hutton. Blood of the Lamb just opened Off-Broadway last week and will run through October 20th at 59 East 59th Theaters. In fact, Meredith hopped on this podcast interview during tech rehearsal for Blood of the Lamb, so when you hear screw guns screaming in the background, consider it a bonus. You are listening to theater and story being made in real time. Here we go with my conversation with Meredith Garretson. All right, I have just a treat for everyone today. I am here online with Meredith Garretson, who is literally stepping away from tech rehearsal of her show up at 59 East 59th in New York, cramming in a quick conversation between tech, which I can only imagine. Maybe it's actually a blessing. Let your mind clear a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. I get to step out and see a friendly face and talk process for a little bit. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Meredith, everyone you heard in the intro and you'll see in the show notes, Meredith, rocking and rolling, TV, films, theater now. Is this one of those cases, Meredith, where you're squeezing in a play in between shooting season 2 and 3 of Resident Alien? Am I getting that right?
In between season 3 and 4. Yeah.
3 and 4. Oh, congratulations. That's right.
3 and 4. Yes. You know, it's a wonderful thing to have a job where you get to, a job in television where you have multiple seasons. It's incredible. And in this, I'm like, it's a miracle, to be employed and have a show get to have multiple seasons, so right. I'm so happy to have this job, but, I am a theater kid by training and I love being on stage, the rigor and the endurance that's required and the rehearsal process and the intimacy of that. And so I'm always like, I just want to do I really want to do a play. I haven't been able to do a play because of my shooting schedule since 2019 when I did As You Like It. Yeah, I did As You Like It at the Old Globe with the brilliant Jessica Stone directing. And I have so much, it brings me so much joy, and it is so rigorous and hard that I feel like so alive inside of a theatrical process. So I've been hoping and wishing for a play where there was a beautiful limited run that I could slip into between seasons, and I could sink my teeth into and give everything over to, and then, get to go back to work. And this play came along and was the answer to that prayer. So I'm really thrilled. I'm really thrilled to be a part of it.
Fantastic. And we're going to talk about Blood of the Lamb here in just a minute. But you mentioned like aching to do a play. And
Yeah.
the intimacy was the word you used there. And I'm curious, as I know 59 East 59, most of those spaces there are smaller on purpose.
Mhm.
So when you're shooting on a set, this is for, because a lot of my listeners have never been necessarily on a TV or film set, right?
Sure,
They've
sure.
seen shows, seen films, but they haven't seen behind the scenes. Now there are people on set, all kinds of people, but they're not an audience,
No,
right? It's a very different exercise.
no.
And especially with distance of communication to reach back row, back corner in a live venue versus, hey, DP, what's my frame? How far do I have to send this communication for it to pick up
Yes.
on the camera? When you say you're like aching to do a play, is that part of it? Is it the give and take with the audience? You
Oh,
mentioned process too. So the rehearsal process, I'm sure, has to be different. Just parse a little bit the difference of how it feeds you differently to work on a filming set versus a live theater stage.
yeah, absolutely. I think intimacy is involved no matter the medium. It's just different types of intimacy, right? And like there's
Mm,
different sizes of truth, right? The intimacy I think that is involved in television and film is so often between you and the camera, right? That intimacy is between you and the camera because you really have to allow the camera to come in close. Everything is communicated, and really so you have to let the camera get in close and trust that everything will come through and be communicated if you're listening and responding. And so the size of your truth changes, right? Like it doesn't, I think people are like, oh, they're totally different mediums. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're both, both about finding truthful moments and connections, listening and responding and telling stories. But the size of the story you're telling is often different, right? So that intimacy with the camera is so beautiful and tenuous and takes a lot of vulnerability and a lot of release and a lot of breath and a lot of trust, right? To just not do less as in not make choices, but to not to telegraph, right? To just
yeah.
trust that the work is being done, has been done, that you've done your character work, and that just by being and allowing yourself to be seen, it's going to come through, right? And I think in the theater, the intimacy I'm talking about intimacy between, like, I mean, my God, the privilege of a rehearsal process. I've been on TV and film sets where there's rehearsal, but so much of TV and film is like you come prepared, right? Like you're lucky if you come in, you work through, you read through the scene, you talk to the director, you talk to the other actor, you get it in the can, and then if there's time, sometimes if there's time, like after everyone else's vision, like the director's vision and whatever has been achieved, like there's okay, maybe we have time for take a couple takes of like, do you have different ideas but intimacy of a rehearsal process of getting to know your director, your fellow actors, your stage managers, the designers, the intimacy of human connections that you build over a rehearsal process it's such a gift. It enriches the work so much, learning a shorthand with other people. And that's so satisfying to me. And then of course, there's the intimacy with the audience. I mean, you don't get to hear your audience listen and respond when you're making film or television, right? That's not what it's about. They get to do that
Yeah.
on their own when you're not there. But being in a being in a live in a space, creating a piece of art live and feeling an audience feeding off of them and them feeding off of you and that interplay and listening to them and letting them be a part of that conversation. And that's everything from when you're in, a comedy and holding for laughs, like
Yeah.
finding the rhythm of comedy and the rhythm of that dance with the audience when it's I mean, not to be reductive, but when it's, something more dramatic and you're in that space where you can hear a pin drop and knowing that something is happening with the audience and with you and that they're with you. I mean, that is like, I crave that. And I crave
It's a
how
drug. It's
it's
totally a
a
drug.
drug. It's a drug. And it's like, it's so dangerous every night. It's so dangerous, that you have to begin again every single night, and you can't hold on to how it went yesterday, and you can't
Oh, yeah.
try to push it. You have to get on the train and go and trust that you've done your work and be with your scene partner and put your focus on them. And yeah, so that's really what I'm talking about, about the different kinds of intimacy.
It's so cool. I was in a play once called Touch. It's a gut punch of a play. It's about a
Mm,
man who confronts the murderer of his wife. It goes dark. It goes very dark. At the end of
wow.
Act One, this was one of the first productions we had, one of the first performances. The end of Act One, the lights went down, and intermission. Usually there's applause or some kind of but lights went down, and it was dead quiet. To your point, like it was one of those weird moments where everyone was in sync, and just the audience refused to clap because of what had just happened. And it wasn't because they didn't appreciate it or I guess enjoy. If you could enjoy a play about, confronting the murderer of your spouse, but
Yeah.
that was a moment, to your point. It's dangerous because you don't know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it's dangerous if you aim for that response again, because the only reason we got that response is, to your point, we were so in the moment and clicking with each other
Mhm.
and not trying to manifest a particular response. You have to be open to whatever response the audience is willing to give each particular night. And
Mm,
that is intimacy, right? Because you
yes.
can't control what someone else is going to do.
No, you can't. And you have to accept what you're given, and you have to accept how, it's true going without a net, and,
Yes.
flying with that, jumping without a net, and accepting what it is on the night, instead of, I mean, it's also, that's an insane moment when that.
The only time I've ever experienced that as an actor, I've experienced it one other time as an audience member. It was the end of this play, and it was the same. And I was in the audience, and I sat on my hands. I was like, they came out and bowed, and it was more like I just, no one could see my video, but I'm like just giving them thank you prayer hands. Like I didn't want to clap because it was going to ruin the spell they had woven to clap.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
You
Theater's
mentioned
a
you
magical
and it,
place.
oh yeah, and you mentioned you're more a theater kid, right? That's what you were raised in. I believe what at the
I mean,
NYU grads.
yes, I'm an MFA kid. I went to NYU, I went to grad acting, baby. I'm a proud NYU alumni. You're gonna hear
Absolutely.
you're gonna hear the dulcet tones now of the set being tweaked, and that's just the magic of this live moment, which is
I love it. It's
we
another
are.
wonderful sound of the art of storytelling is the the drill gun.
Yeah. I totally went out there and was like, because I'm in my dressing room, and so I went out there and was like, "Are you guys going to be drilling?" And then, "Are you going to be drilling for an hour?" And they were like, "Yeah." And
Yes.
I was like, "Yes, of course you are, because we're in tech and that's your job." And I was like, "I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry." So
Yeah, yeah.
we are. Yes,
It brings a verisimilitude to this podcast,
that's
Meredith.
right.
We're
It's
right in
really
the middle
happening.
of it.
It's really happening right now. Yes, I went to NYU grad acting. I graduated in 2017. It was 3 of the best years of my life, 3 of the hardest years of my life, and just taught me to be like so hungry for rigor, and to just go ahead and fall apart and make a mess, and then also to be studious and vigorous about putting my work together, to take the work seriously, and not myself, not to
I
take,
love that.
to take
Yep.
work seriously, but not take myself seriously. So yeah, I'm a certified theater kid.
And what is this founding member of Society Theater Company? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Society Theater Company was founded in the joint stock method, where, I don't know if you know about the joint stock method, where it's like taking a topic, everyone coming in and doing research on this topic that everyone's interested in, coming in, bringing in that research. There are writers in our company who are working on, developing a play around a topic that we're all interested in. And then there's improvisation around that topic. And from
Oh,
all of our
okay.
collaborative work, the playwright or playwrights get either sparked with inspiration, or sometimes those improvisations make it into the play. But it's a collaborative way of theater making. And yeah, that we did, let's see, we did 2 plays 2 summers ago. that were wonderful, wonderful plays. And we're developing our future production. You're going to have to edit this out because I am going rogue over here. What I, what I want to say in brief is we were founded in the joint stock company. It's an ensemble of theater makers, a lot of NYU grad acting alums, and it's a really joyful process where everybody is involved in this sort of germination of idea, research, collaboration, improvisation, development of a play, and then that is put on. Yeah.
Right.
And it's been really exciting to be a part of that.
Very cool. All right. So, geek out technical question.
Okay.
So, you've played Rosalind. That was your last play a few years ago, you
Yes.
mentioned. And As
Yes.
You Like It,
Yes.
iconic role from the last several centuries.
Yes.
Marion and Robin Hood, Dancing at
Yes.
Lunicia, plays that have a history.
Yes.
And now you're also talking about a theater company you're a part of where it's built out of improv, where everything you put on is a world premiere, basically. And the play you're in right now, Blood of the Lamb, which we're going to get to in segment 2, promise. This is also, I think, it's the New York premiere, and it only started, I believe, last year. It's had a few festival productions, so this is also still very much a new work.
Yes.
Right? It's not like you are able to access a bunch of research about other people's takes on Rosalind to attack this particular play.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about in terms of your Meredith-based process when it comes to performing a role that everyone knows versus creating a role from scratch, basically, where is it more pressure, less pressure? Do you get to access different parts of yourself? Is the research aimed differently? So it's that classic question of playing a role that has expectation versus playing a role that no one really knows what it is yet.
I know this is like, go ahead and call me out if this sounds like a cop out, but
Okay.
I think no matter the play, no matter the role, no one knows. No one knows. And I think what we do know is the form, right? We know the form of Shakespeare's plays. We know we study language, we study pentameter, we study and there's lots of theories about the rhythm and meter and the way to move through that language, right? So that we elevate the language and we highlight and elevate the meaning, right? There's a lot of that. But when it comes to going inside of a role, I think for me, I start from scratch. I'm not like, oh, how did that, production of As You Like It, like, I read the play. I remember the first read through. Oh my God. I remember the first read through of As You Like It. And like, I'm a little bit of, I have big, deep feelings. I have a lot of, like, I say this with like love and lightness. Like, I have a lot of pain and sadness that lives inside me rent free. So like my take on things sometimes my initial take comes from my own sort of, I'll attack something and what I attach to might be totally different than what someone else attached to. And I remember at the first read through of As You Like It, you've never seen a more serious Rosalind in your life. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not where we ended up, but like, because the deeper we got and the more I was able to sort of temper my own character development with the form, right? Like the more like it grows and changes. But I think the work is the same, which is, who is this person? Where are they coming from? What are they going through? What is on the page that is a clue into character and the way they look at the world, the way they think, the way they speak, the rhythm of their speech, their biorhythm, how fast or how slow they are, how they process information, how they relate to other people, how, where they fit in society, hierarchy, status, class. I think all of that work is the work every time. And then also there's the stuff that has to do with honoring language, honoring meter, and then you have to factor in those technical things. But I think about those processes the same. And I feel like it would be really boring to attack something like Rosalind, which is the biggest, most sizable female role in Shakespeare's canon, or written as female, originally intended as female role in Shakespeare's canon. It would be really boring to attack that from like okay, well, how is this done? Like, how does one do this? Because you cut yourself off at you cut yourself off at the knees. You eliminate what could be your incredibly unique, unreplicatable take on someone based on whatever you bring to it. And then you have to get to a place, and that's why directors are so important and why text work is so important, where you bump up between where your habit or your tendency maybe doesn't serve the character, doesn't serve the development of the play, doesn't serve the over arc of the storytelling. And you have to be willing to pivot, kill your darlings, make those compromises. But I think that's the same in every single process. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that's a cop out. It might be a cop
No.
out, but it's true for me. I think it's true for me.
That's fantastic. Since we're talking about building characters, what's your process like? Let's use Resident Alien as a great example, because that was, again, you're basically there's a writers, there's director, you're cast in this television show, there's episodes, it grows, there's multiple seasons. By this point, with season 4 coming up, how much influence do you and your take on the character have on how the writers give you lines? Like at the beginning, you had to go in and build her out of scratch.
Yeah.
Probably in collaboration with the writer and director, even more so than in a play that is already fully curated.
Yes.
But with this, how much of your character in Resident Alien is Meredith pouring into that pot versus just interpreting something that's been done before? There has to be some difference there in terms of how you process that for yourself and how you throw yourself into the process with your fellow collaborators.
Yeah, for sure. TV is unique in that way because it's written, and then hopefully it's continuing to be written another season.
Right.
you pour into the character that they give you, and if you're lucky, like I have been, to work under the leadership of Chris Sheridan, who is our showrunner and head writer, and sets the tone for what the energy is and what the ethos is of how we all create together. He wrote me a character who had a really clear, a clear shape for me, right? He wrote a character who had a really clear shape, and I was like, oh, I understand this person and how to play it. And then very smartly, as I think great collaborators and writers do, he integrated me and my biorhythm and my feelings about the character and my thoughts into his creative process. So there's a lot of me in Kate Hawthorne, who I play in Resident Alien. And of course, there's a lot of places where she and I are totally different. But as the seasons have gone on, it's like, okay, who is this person on the page? What's unexpected about her? What belies what we see in the script? What else? What are the conflicts and the dualities of this person? And what interests me, about exploring that. And Chris and the writers do such a great job of my character. I feel like has grown increasingly complex as the seasons have gone on. They've given me more and more to tackle and to do. And as with any ensemble show, like ours, the more space, the more time you have, the more seasons, the more episodes you have, the more the world's able to round out into full 3 dimensions for everyone. So our whole company has really gotten a chance to be 3-dimensional characters, 3-dimensional people. And I think my own personality has played a part in that, in helping to construct that. And then I think they've also written a really, really strong character who's just gotten stronger over the seasons. So I'm in there. But then, I also find it really fun to bump up against the things where I'm like, really, see, that was live. The person just came in because they needed something and they had to come in, and they came in.
We're in it. We're neck deep in it, Meredith. It's live.
Yeah. And but I think there's tons of her where I'm like, whoa, that's so different than me. That's so different and that actually is really fun. Like, especially the more, I don't want to say ugly parts, but the parts that are, the messier parts, where I'm like, ooh, I'm allowed to be messy in this way, in this character that maybe I don't allow myself to be messy in real life, right? To be spiky. She can be spiky and want things her way and controlling in this way that I probably am, which is why I bristle at it. It's in me. And so I don't want to enact that in life, but I get to cathartically do that with a character, which is such a gift.
That's one of the reasons I think it's so much fun to play villains.
Oh my God, of course.
Because you get to do the things that are just not allowed in polite society, things you would never say or do in your normal life. You get to purge that stuff out.
Well, also because villains don't think that they're villains. Like
Exactly.
very rarely does a villain think they're a villain. They're just going after something with all of their energy that might cause a severe amount of conflict or pain for someone else. But it's no one's most times I don't think people are written to be they're not the villain of their story, you
No
know?
way.
So
They're always the protagonist of their
they're the
own story.
protagonists. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Meredith, so before we jumped on here, I was telling you how this even happened. Because this is our first time ever meeting or talking. That's one of the joys of doing this podcast is I get to talk with just the coolest people I would never meet in my day-to-day. But my show Clowns Like Me was just up in New York this past summer, and our general manager, Carly Fisher,
Yes.
who's a rock star, she's on your show too, and she's the one who reached out, and she's been a guest on this podcast. She was the one who reached out and said, can you talk to my cast? And I was like, of course. So that's how we met. And
Yeah.
the show you're doing right now that is in tech, we're hearing the screw guns, we're hearing people come in and out. It's awesome. This show is called Blood of the Lamb. And I
Yes.
would love for you to talk just a little bit about how you got involved, the background of the play, what drew you to it, why this was the play you chose when you were aching to do a play in your little seasonal break, why this one is the one that you decided to throw yourself into.
Oof. Okay. So many months ago, I went and saw my friend Krista Scott Reed, who is one of the amazing producers. She and Brian are part of Occasional Drawl, who is producing this show. Krista had a reading of this play done, and I went to see that reading, and I listened to Arlene Hutton's beautiful words and metabolized it, and I was really taken by the timeliness of this play, the importance of this play as a woman, not just as a woman, as a human, in a time where our bodily autonomy is being actively threatened. And I felt like I was like, wow, this is a really important conversation to be having. And I just thought about the play and thought about it. And I was telling my manager about it. And she, my manager, Ashley Vickery, we were talking and I was saying, I saw this reading of this play and, it's about this woman who's flying home from California to New York and she has to land in Texas. Anyway, I was giving her the details about this. And on the same day that I was telling Ashley about it, Krista reached out to me and we began to have conversations about this play. And I just felt like there was some sort of energy. I accept what comes and what's given. And I'm not I don't believe everything happens for a reason because I'm like, really explain childhood leukemia, explain Gaza, explain suffering to me. You know what I mean? I don't. So but I was like, oh, something is being placed in front of me. And it's something that really, really moved me and made me feel activated when I heard this play and this really powerful play between these two women. And I just was like, oh. And so not only was the sort of timing of it really serendipitous as far as my shooting schedule, but it just felt like what I had wanted, what I'd asked for was inside myself was I want to do a play that feels important. I want to do a play that feels like I want to be a part of a conversation that matters. I want to do something that feels vital and that I care about and that I can sink my teeth into and that asks a lot of me where I have to give an ego destroyer, where I have to, release self and give. And this play is incredibly difficult and hits me in a deep and personal place because of my own journey with my own reproductive history and my own belief in the absolute human right that is the right to choose what one does with one's body and the feeling of terror that I feel at those rights being threatened and taken and the overturning of Roe v. Wade and our rights being taken away from us. And so I felt so compelled to be a part of this project directed by the incredible Margot Bordelon. And I just, yeah, I was like, this is a no-brainer for me. This will cost me. It will cost me everything. It will cost me a lot. I will have to give everything I have. And I think that's a real gift to an actor because there's no time or energy to get into your head about, I don't know, like self-annihilating thoughts, vanity, all that stuff. I'm like, there's too much to do. There's too much to do. So that's how I got involved. I heard the play. I was compelled by the play. And then the play presented itself to me in a time where I could say yes to it. And so that felt like a mandate for me.
Great, but it's nice when it's clear like that. To hear that bell ring makes a big
Yeah,
difference.
absolutely.
Um, so you've hinted a little bit, and without giving any twists away, because I'm hoping people hear this and maybe buy a ticket. But what is the setup? What's the hook of the play? What is the given circumstance? Who are you playing? What's the general thrust of the story?
The general thrust of the story is it takes place in a room between two women. I am playing my character, Nessa, is a woman who lives in New York City, who was on a nonstop flight from California to New York City, where she has a medical situation happen on her flight. Her flight has to be diverted. It's diverted to Dallas. And because of the state that she lands in, and because of the laws in that state. And I should note that this was originally written as speculative fiction, right? Like this was
Right,
originally
right.
written as like, whoa, like a future where all of these horrifying laws and restrictions on one's bodily autonomy are possible. And now this is almost completely law. Almost
Yep.
every single one of these speculative laws in the play have become a terrifying reality. So, because of where she is put in a situation where she does not have bodily autonomy based on the laws of the state where she is in. And she was a pregnant person. She's a pregnant person who has a medical incident. And this woman is there to inform her of what the score is. And it is a meeting between two people. It is a conversation between two human beings from different parts of the country with different belief structures. And what I love about it is that it engages in the conversation around the right to choose and bodily autonomy in a very different way. And I think it does it in a way that includes people who sometimes don't feel like they're a part of this conversation because they're like, oh, I'm pro-life. So I don't have to have the question about whether or not these rights being taken away are, whether it's right or wrong, because I don't believe in that. But this is not a story about a woman having an abortion. So it's a story about a person who does not have control over what's happening to their body, and about a person who is pregnant and very much wants to be. So what I appreciate about it is that it involves everyone. It involves the human question of what it means when our government, specifically to women or those who can carry children, because that seems to be the favorite place to take rights away. Don't get me started on the hypocrisy of that, but it allows everyone to look at that and say, "Oh, this affects me too. This affects me too." I'm absolutely affected by this question, and it keeps it from being this, do you believe this or do you believe this? Right? So
It
that's
avoids the polemic preaching to the choir problem of that
exactly.
can sometimes plague issue plays. That can
Yes.
sometimes be a real trap for an issue play, is that you only preach to one side, or that you
Yes.
uh, end up excluding the very people you're trying to engage with.
Absolutely.
But
And
it sounds like Arlene and your team have smartly avoided that particular trap.
oh, I think so, and have made these people human beings, right? Because the second you do this, one person is good and one person is bad, right?
Right.
There's no conversation happening. Like there's no engagement in investigating the other person's humanity. And you will lose, you people will stop listening, I think. They stop listening. And when we're doing this play in New York City, where I think a good majority of people understand the dangers of who will see our play, understand the dangers of removing a person's bodily autonomy, taking away their right to decide what happens to their own body. But if one person who sees this show sees it and feels like they watched two human beings have a conversation and they feel like they can be included in how they think about this topic, if they can be included in a way that goes beyond dogma, that goes beyond that goes to, oh, right, this is a more nuanced conversation. It's not this versus this, right? Then we will have done our jobs. And I think that's the goal, is making these women both deeply human and then having a nuanced conversation under incredibly scary circumstances.
Right. I mean, that's the whole point of storytelling in the first place, is that the listener or audience or viewer walks out provoked to think a little deeper, right? We're not in the business of providing easy answers. We're in the business of digging for juicier questions,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And I think it's a cautionary tale, in the sense that if we don't make this an issue of a human right, not just if we don't make this a human issue, we're in danger of, and look, the reality is women are dying. Women are dying.
Right.
This is not hyperbolic. It's happening every week. There's a news story about a woman who is turned away from receiving care, or told that she can't be helped because of the laws of the state. Women with ectopic pregnancies, women with, it is an actually incredibly dangerous time. And I think this play is coming at a moment in history where we really have to face ourselves and face our culture, and make this a human issue. And it is a life and death issue. So it feels incredibly prescient and incredibly important.
Meredith, as I was getting ready to hop on with you, I happened to come across an interview you did. It must have been fairly recently, because it's about Resident Alien. And there's a wonderful quote that I want to kind of dig in with you here, and it's about comedy, which you've mentioned a few times in our chat so far. There's a thing about
Okay.
how you get people to laugh. This is you. I'm quoting you. There's this thing about how you get people to laugh and open their mouths, and you can slip some truth in. And I think that's comedy in its highest form. And our show doesn't sacrifice. It doesn't have comedy at the expense of humanity or at the expense of compassion. I have a lot of improv in my background too, and this is something we would talk about a lot in training, is how easy it is to punch down. That's the cheap laugh. And it sounds a little bit like what you're saying, something similar here, slipping the truth in once they open their mouth, and doing comedy that has humanity and compassion, not that making fun of someone, but maybe making fun of things we do in ridiculous situations. So I'm not going to try to put words in your mouth, because I just loved this quote, and I have a lot of similar thoughts about how comedy operates, but I'd love for you to dig in a bit more about what you mean with this. When people open their mouths, we can slip in some truth. I want to do comedy that has compassion and humanity. Put some muscle on those bones for us.
Sure. So I think, what is the phrase? You attract more flies with honey, or you attract more, there's some phrase like that, right? And I think, no one wants to be, like, the truth is, everything has the potential to increase, every piece of art has the potential to increase someone's empathy, right? To make them, to broaden a person's scope, or increase the amount of empathy they have for someone they didn't relate to, or about a situation, that they don't have experience with, or that they have a strong opinion of, right? And what I love is that comedy can make people comfortable, can make people feel open, and in that openness, one can reveal something true through the storytelling. One can reveal something true that a person is able to actually digest, that they're actually able to take in, because they're in an open and available space to receive it. I mean, I think we all know this. Nobody wants to be lectured. Nobody wants to be talked down to. Nobody wants to be, and I think the Resident Alien is so great about this, in the sense that our show is all heart. It's all heart. And it's about people who are othered. It's about communities who feel othered, individuals who feel othered in their community, and that the sort of strangeness or the sometimes hilarious scenarios that people find themselves in get people to a place where they feel comfortable and they feel open and excited, by the material. And then via the side door, someone's humanity lands on you. There's moments of that in this play where it's like we're in an insanely intense situation, and then a moment of levity comes, a moment of unexpected levity where you see a person's humanity, their mannerisms,
Yeah.
their humanness, their eccentricity, the mundanity of their behavior. You see that kind of. I think it's a way of comedy can be a way of reaching people, because people want to laugh, they want to feel joy, and you can challenge people. You can challenge people in comedy sometimes in ways that they're more open to receive new information. I mean, I do as much drama as I do comedy, and I'm certainly not a person. I did not come from an improv background. I was thrown into the GD deep end when I was cast in Resident Alien with a bunch of comedic, legends and improv legends, and had to learn to swim. I have clown training. I have comedic training, but I had to learn a lot of that on my feet. But I do find that's the real joy of comedy is it's funny to the audience. It's never funny to the character. The character is just going
Right.
after it's all, they're just maybe they're going after something completely insane, but they're going after it with 100%, and that's what makes it funny. But you get to reveal things about the human condition. You get to mirror strange and insane things about being a person that way. And I think sometimes people are a little bit more, their feelers are going and they're a little more available to receive that. That's what I think.
Yes.
That's what I think I meant. I mean, that sounded very articulate of me, that quote. So I was like, what is he going to say? I was like, what did I say? What interview? When did I? So but I think that's
Oh,
what I
you
meant.
were yeah, you were tag teaming with Levi. It was a
Yeah.
good interview.
Yeah. We had so much fun.
Levi
We had
being
so much fun
your
together.
co-star, yeah.
Yes. He plays my
Awesome.
husband.
Oh, Meredith, this has been such a delight. I'm so appreciative of you squeezing us in on tech here.
Thanks for
I'm gonna
asking
do
me
my wrap.
such. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, of
Yeah. Go ahead.
course.
Go ahead.
Of course.
Go ahead.
So I like to wrap with a couple pieces of advice in the spotlight. Advice
Great.
number one is, what is the best advice that you have ever taken?
I had a teacher in drama school say to me, it was kind of a twofold thing that she said. She said, "Hey, it's okay to be good at things. You're not here to learn how to be good at acting. You're here to learn how to let go." And I'm a person who I'm a an overachiever. I'm an oldest child. I'm a Taurus, like whatever, all the monikers of like, I have anxiety. I want to get everything right. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so part of my journey as an actor is is to let go, is to let go and to just believe that me being alive and breathing in and out and listening and responding as truthfully as I can based on the character and the circumstances, that is enough, that it's enough, that I'm enough. And something about the way she said that, maybe because it started with a compliment, I don't know, maybe my ego was like, oh, I'm available to listening to that, but no, what she was saying was like, no, we were all there because we're good actors, right? But that's not what I was there to do. I was there to learn how to be water. And that is a thing I continue to come up against in every process, the desire to get things right. And then remembering her saying that to me, shout out Lisa Benavides, and remembering her saying to me, you're here to learn how to let go. And that's probably the most profound, I think, probably career and personal information. And then, the other thing that comes to me is to forgive quickly and to forgive often. And I think that is a beautiful life lesson, micro, macro, every way. Is just, it's medicine you give yourself. And I mean, that includes oneself, forgiving oneself. It just increases my humanity every time I remember that. It increases my love for myself and my love for other people and my empathy. So that's both those things are really core piece of advice.
Those are great. Thank you. Flippin'. What is the worst advice that you have ever given?
I'm going to say something I used to do as a
Okay.
extremely as a person who has anxiety, cares so deeply about the people in my life and has issues of wanting to control is that I used to do I used to find myself giving unsolicited advice. And
Oh,
I think not, not with any ill intent, but I did. I found myself giving unsolicited advice. And I think every single time I gave unsolicited advice, that was the worst piece of advice that I have ever given. It doesn't matter if it was good advice or not. It doesn't matter if it was useful or not, because what I should have done was said, what do you need? How can I support you? What can I do? What do you need right now? Do you need to be witnessed? Do you want feedback? Can I ask you questions? Do you want questions? Do you want me to speak from my own experience? What do you need? So I have learned not to do that because I think you rob a person sometimes of the journey that they need to go on for that, because you can be told something over and over again, like, just do this. And if a person doesn't understand that, if it doesn't drop in, into their body and feel kinesthetically like truthful to them, then you're wasting your breath. Like, they need to go through their own process to get to wherever they are going in the time that they need to get there. So I think unsolicited advice, which I was very guilty of giving, not anymore, but that would be my worst advice.
that's super useful. No one ever wants it.
No. And even if they're nice about it, they don't want it.
Great. Thank you for all that. And now a spotlight for you, Meredith. Anyone listening, where can they find you? When's the show there in New York running? Do you have a website? Where should people go to learn more about you and what you're up to?
Okay. Well, our show starts previews on the 14th, which is Saturday, and we open on the 23rd here at 59 East 59th in Theater A. And let's see. Yeah, please come see our show. I think it's going to be really powerful and will cause a lot of wonderful conversation and thought. And it feels really important right before a really important election. So, come see us. I have a film that just premiered at TIFF called Friendship, directed by the brilliant Andrew DeYoung, starring Paul Rudd and Kate Mara and lots of other brilliant genius actors. So I have that, which just came out and hopefully will be available soon. You can check me out on, I'm really giving you the whole thing now. Sorry.
Please.
Tim Robinson is the name of the genius in Friendship that I shot. Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd, Kate Mara, and many other genius comedians. I have seasons 1 and 2 of Resident Alien are available on Netflix. Season 3 is available on Peacock. And I'm on Instagram because, I'm a proper millennial and I'm on Instagram. And I'm at Meredith Garretson on Instagram. So please come and prepared to be underwhelmed.
Oh my gosh. Good advice. Oh my goodness, Meredith. Look at that. Perfect timing. Exactly an hour.
Yes.
This is so good. I'm so grateful you got us in on tech. Wishing you all broken legs. Wonderful previews and opening. And yeah, everyone, if you're in New York, go check it out and check out her shows. And oh my goodness, I didn't realize. So Meredith just made that fun little like heart shape with her hands. And I don't know if you saw it, but on my screen, a bunch of hearts. Okay, there are hearts exploding. So I've seen on Apple on the new like text that if you thumbs up or peace sign, you get balloons or fireworks, but I've never seen the heart. Oh, there you go, fireworks.
There you
So we
go.
just learned something really fascinating that my podcasting app Alitu also mimics Apple products with their flamboyant add-ons to hand gestures.
Love it. Love it. I feel kind of attacked by those, but we'll let it go. When you're like accidentally make a thumbs up and one pops up and you're talking
Right.
to someone about something serious and you're like, no, 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 I didn't, no, 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 no. That was not a thumbs up to your breakup. No, no, no. Yeah. Anyway.
Meredith, thank you. Go Break Legs. Have a wonderful opening. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a rewarding conversation. I really appreciate it.
The Page and Stage podcast is built with Alitu, the all-in-one podcasting app created by the amazing team over at thepodcasthost.com. You can learn more about all my guests and access their websites and projects in the episode summaries. If you enjoyed and found value in this podcast, please tell at least one other person. Word of mouth has always been and will always be the best marketing tool in the world. Thank you for listening, and until next time, I'm Jason Cannon, and I cannot wait to hear your story.